Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started. There probably will be some additional attendees as we get rolling, but we are so glad to see everybody participating in this meeting tonight. This is a big project for the city of Bethlehem, and your participation and comments are very important to us. I want to a couple of logistical points I want to make as we get started here. First is that you may have seen as you logged in or heard that we are recording this meeting. We're doing that so that we can make it available on the Bridge Bethlehem website in the future. If people can't participate tonight, they can take a look at the meeting in the future, and it'll be part of the archive that we have for this project. So just so everybody has an awareness of that. We also wanted to let you know that there is an opportunity if you're interested in Spanish subtitles. There is an opportunity for that. If you look at the control bar at the bottom of your screen, there's a CC button. It's closed captioned, and with the subtitles can be available in Spanish if you would like that. You can also make comments in the chat room in Spanish as the meeting progresses. And as the meeting progresses also, if you have questions or comments, you can put them in the chat room. We will save those till the end of the meeting, but then we'll open it up for some general discussion as we close out the meeting, and we'll take a look at the chat room at that point in time. So please, there'll be other opportunities to share as we go through the meeting, but please feel free to use the chat room as well. I also wanted to introduce some of our partners as we go through this project. The city never works alone. We always have lots of partners, and that's how we really are able to have successful projects. From a funding perspective, the project is supported by both DCNR from the state and the county of Northampton. So we're very, very appreciative of the funding support that they've given to this project. And we have a team of planners and engineers that we are working with. WRT is our lead consultant for the project. And supporting them is Michael Baker International for engineering support, and also ESI, eConsult Solutions for some economic data. We'll be taking a look at the return on investment that this project creates for the city of Bethlehem. And so they will be participating in that. And we also have a broad range of participants in our working group. We meet with them pretty much monthly, and they cover a cross section of stakeholders in the community. So I would like to thank them as well. Dr. Paige Van Wert is a city council member. Cassie Hilger is the executive director of Arts Quest. Scott Slingerland is the executive director of CAT, and that organization is participating in us in a lot of projects for pedestrian and bike safety. Several community organizers are involved in the project: Nick Nikolov, Anthony Viscardi, Doug Royston. Claire Sladler heads up the DNL corridor and has been a great partner with the city also in many different events. Tammy Wendling heads up and is one of the staff people for the DBA on the north side. And then on the south side, Missy Hartner is the executive director of the Southside Arts District. We have a representative, Brian Nickus, from the EAC, Environmental Advisory Committee. Lanta is represented by Molly Wood. Brent Stringfellow is a part of the facilities group with Lehigh University. Tina Smith from Northampton County DCED, one of our funders. And also Melissa Schaefer with St. Luke's Hospital. We're very appreciative of the time and commitment that they make to this project. They also help us with public outreach and other things. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to our consultants. Woo Kim will lead the presentation at this point. So I'll turn it over to Will.
Thanks, Darlene.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Woo Kim. I'm a principal at WRT. We're a planning and design firm, as Darlene mentioned. We're consultants leading this process for the city of Bethlehem. We also have Michael Baker International with us on this call, as well as ESI, who is not on this call. However, they're a critical partner in this effort. Here's the agenda for tonight. We're going to go through a series of slides. I just want to let everyone know that this is not your typical Zoom meeting. This is going to be pretty engaging. And so in order for you to be sort of truly engaged, we'd like for everyone to go to www.menti.com. So MENTI.com. And then use the code 1793805. And the reason why that will be important, and you'll find out in subsequent slides, is that it really gives you an opportunity to interact with some of the questions that we're asking and the images and data that we're showing you. This section of the presentation will be about welcoming all of you, and we'll get to know who's in this meeting. I understand that the only way for you to interact is through the chat, and I hope that everyone is being polite and respectful in the chat. We will remove people who are not being respectful from this meeting. So just a heads up about that, because it really takes away from the experience of invested citizens and residents who are here to learn and here to engage. The next section, we'll talk about the study itself. And then after that, we're going to talk about opportunities, about this pedestrian bridge, and then visioning and next steps. So with that, next slide, please. So, Stacy, this is handing it off to you.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. We're delighted that you're here today. As Woo said, we have a number of questions for everybody. So we want to start off with a fairly easy one. So please tell us a little bit about you, and we'll take a couple minutes. If you are logged on to menti.com and you enter the code that you're seeing here at the top of the screen, it should come up right on your screen, and you should be able to make a selection. So let's see, we'll give everyone a couple more moments. Okay, looking good. Let's give you another minute or two as we're filling these up. Looks like the majority of you either live in Bethlehem, work in Bethlehem, or at the very least love spending time in Bethlehem. So that's terrific. All right, why don't we move on to the next question? We'd love to know with which age group you identify with. Thank you. Oh, good. So we actually have a few teens on the call. That's exciting to see. A few in their 20s. All right. Excellent. Come on, let's see how we can tip the scale here. Looks like at the moment, the majority of you are 60 or beyond, with a fair amount of you in the 40s. Okay. Terrific. Moving on to the next question. We're curious, could you please let us know how you learned about tonight's meeting? We have just debuted a new website, so we're wondering if any of you saw that, or if you saw our postcard. Perhaps you saw the article in the morning call. Interesting. Looks like many of you learned about it on social media. Okay. We'll take a couple more minutes and just let you go ahead and finish up at this point. Alrighty, so it looks like the majority of you who have responded have definitely found out about the meeting on social media, so that's terrific. We'll talk a little bit later about our new website and some of the other initiatives. So we hope that you'll continue, obviously, to follow along. Why don't we move on to the next slide?
Thanks, Stacy. So about the study. I'm going to talk to you about the background and the history of not just the river itself, about this initiative. Next slide, please. Please continue to stay engaged through Menti, as many of these slides are also interactive. You know, in order for us to properly understand this assignment, we need to understand that this bridge represents more than just a piece of infrastructure that connects the north and south sides of Bethlehem. We know that this bridge also connects from Bethlehem's rich industrial history to its future. And Bethlehem is in really good footing because of all the things that is going on in the city right now. Here's a timeline to show just our understanding of the study area and the role that the Lehigh River played in shaping the city. Bethlehem, like many cities, really originated from the river. And then industry really shaped the city as the industry leveraged the locational benefits and the hydrological power of that river. So moving on, we know that the river really creates a distinctive place in the city and will continue to be an asset in the city. And so it's not just something that we are trying to get over, but it's something that we really need to celebrate as well. The idea of this pedestrian bridge didn't come from us, your consultants, and didn't really come from the city either. It actually came from a grassroots sort of group of really sort of invested and committed citizens. And the vision statement here was actually generated by them. We envision a bridge that allows safe passage for all community members, including walkers, bikers, runners, and unites North and South Bethlehem's neighborhoods and businesses, allowing them to flourish as one. We believe that an architecturally beautiful bridge that promotes recreational enjoyment of the river is essential for Bethlehem to become a true walking city. So we are relying on this vision statement as we proceed in our work. And you can see here that our work here is really, you can think of it as a maybe step 5 or step 6 in a 15-step road that will lead to the construction of a bridge. So this is not something that's happening imminently. This is not something that can even happen next year. But it is a really important step for us to hear from the community, from all of you in this Zoom meeting and in future meetings to help us shape the vision for this bridge. It really goes through a civil discourse, you know, and ultimately this study will lead to an engineering study, and design and engineering study. If you go to the next slide, please. That will build on many of the studies that came immediately before this. And some of you who are in this meeting were active participants in some of these plans that came just recently. We know that the Beth Connects Trail study was completed about 6 years ago. And then right after that, the Vision Zero plan was adopted in the city of Bethlehem. And that plan is really to end pedestrian deaths and injuries. The city's comprehensive plan was completed in 2018. And then very recently, many of you have probably participated in the climate action plan that the city embarked on. And you can think of this effort that we're doing as part and parcel of that climate action plan, because I think we all believe that a walkable and a pedestrian friendly and a bicycle friendly and a wheelchair friendly future is a climate-friendly future. Next. So what is our scope of work? What are we doing? What are the consultants working on? This kind of helps you understand our scope in sort of high level. This study will lead to a comprehensive strategy for the city and community to realize a safe pedestrian and bicycle crossing over the Lehigh River in Bethlehem. And included in our scope of work are 3 alternative locations that will lead to 1 priority recommendation. We don't have any of these locations pre-cooked right now. Right now, it's really important for us to listen and to understand the values of the community. At a subsequent meeting, we will show some alternatives, and we hope to get your input on those options. We're also thinking of considering perhaps expanding an additional bridge. That is also an alternative that we can consider if indeed that's what the community wants us to consider. And by the way, I think this slide is a Menti interactive slide. I believe you can vote this slide up or down based on whether you like what I'm saying or not. So we will provide the city recommendations for required permits and approvals. We're not going to obtain those permits and approvals, obviously, but we'll outline a path towards obtaining those permits and approvals. And it's a little bit complicated because this bridge will cross over not only the river, but also, you know, a couple of active freight lines, as well as other sort of infrastructure constraints. As with all new construction that is publicly accessible, we need to consider the Americans with Disability Act and make sure that this bridge is completely ADA accessible. We will also provide the city an order of magnitude cost projections of this bridge and the timeline needed to construct the bridge. Finally, as Darlene mentioned earlier, we're also including a return on investment. And this will be a really important piece to help the community understand the economic impact of this bridge, because it may be that $1 spent on this bridge will yield you know, multiple fold returns for the city in terms of economic benefits when we talk about tourism and recreation and just bringing a lot of value and identity to an already identity-rich city. Next. So here are the steps that show the path towards implementation. The feasibility study, the first step is what we're working on right now. After that, there will be a grant writing step that will seek funding sources in the state, and it could be federal sources as well, for engineering, for design and engineering. And then after that, we'll go through a preliminary design and engineering, and during which we will continue to engage the community, and everyone will be updated and apprised of what's going on. This bridge may require a right-of-way acquisition. So we can talk about that, or you can ask questions about that, and then ultimately lead to final design and engineering. And then additional step of grant writing to obtain the grant, to obtain the funding required to construct this bridge. So as you can see, it's a long road, but we're at a really important part in this journey. Next. So this is a study area. And the reason we cast a wide study area is because we wanted to make sure that we leverage the full synergy of everything that's going on in the city, north and south side. We understand that the city has just tremendous assets, and this bridge is an opportunity to connect a lot of these assets and create a walkable zone in the city, and almost a place unto itself. The study area stretches from the Hill to Hill Bridge on the west side to the Mincy Trail Bridge on the east side. And then it encompasses both downtown areas, the Historic District, Moravian Village, Steel Stacks, and Wind Creek. You can also see where Lehigh University is in this map here. And Sand Island will also be a critical piece of this bridge and connection to that island as well, as we know that there are many recreational assets there. Next. This is the timeline for our work. We are currently in the community meeting number 1, as you see here at the end of May. And following or at the end of this meeting, we will sort of launch a community scavenger hunt. So many of you will receive the instructions for that, and that should be a fun activity that will go on for about a month or so. Subsequent to this meeting, we'll touch base with our working group, those members that you saw in the previous slide, and we'll conduct a series of focus groups and stakeholder interviews. If you're interested in participating, please go to the website Bridge Bethlehem. I hope I'm getting that right. bridgebethlehem.com, and find a way to connect to Darlene and her team and submit your contact information so that we can include you and make sure that we engage you. The next time we all meet like this, hopefully it will be in person, and that will happen sometime in September. And we will, as I mentioned earlier, provide a number of alternatives and look for input on those alternatives. And after that, we will sort of vet those alternatives and then come up with a preferred design and hopefully finalize this study early next year. Next. Okay, so I can ask this question. If you are still on menti.com, please feel free to respond to these 3 questions. How do you feel about, or to respond to this question with either one of these 3 answers? How do you feel about the idea of a pedestrian bike crossing? Oh, this is so delightful to see.
Yes.
Thank you all so much.
And just a quick reminder there, in case you joined us a little bit on the late side, we're inviting your feedback through menti.com. So if you look right up at the top of our series of slides, if you go on your cell phone, or if perhaps you go onto a tablet that or even your browser, you can go to menti.com and enter the code, which is 1793805. And the question will come up automatically. All right, we'll take another minute just to see. I think we're reassured to hear that so far you like the idea and what you're hearing. And fair enough, it's very early in the process, so we certainly anticipate that a few of you may either be unsure or have some reservations, so completely understandable. We look forward to moving on, and we'll ask you a few more questions a little bit later on.
Hi guys, Chris Stanford from Michael Baker International. I'm a professional engineer and certified planner. I'm here to talk to you about opportunities of this project. When I think about projects like this, I think about how we can connect people to all the great things that Bethlehem has to offer, how we can connect the north side and the south side. What are the great opportunities that we can create with this project? So one of the first things we did was talk with our team and all the folks at the city and their steering committee about what are the destinations, what are the great places in Bethlehem that we want to connect to. So whether it's all arts and culture like Steel Stacks and Arts Quest or the Ice House, or City Hall even, or the library, or commercial places like Wind Creek or 3rd Street, Main Street shopping areas, or the North Side shopping areas along Main Street, and all the host of different recreational and commercial and shopping areas and tourist areas that are available within Bethlehem. So we made a map here. As you can see, we try to locate a lot of those different destinations, and we'll use that as part of our alternatives analysis process and where we think that this bridge really could be located to benefit all these locations. Next. And one of the big elements of this project is how do we connect the South Bethlehem Greenway to the DNL Trail? And how do we connect people to those 2 major trail facilities? As you may know, the DNL Trail is 165-mile regional trail that basically goes from Wilkes-Barre area all the way down to Bristol, PA, and Bucks County. A huge asset for the community, and we want to make sure that we connect everyone to that as part of this project. We also would like to connect local trails as well, just like the South Bethlehem Greenway to the project as well. So connecting trails and then connecting folks to open space and nature and parks is a big part of what we're trying to do as part of this project. Next slide. But we understand that we have real world challenges here. There's a lot of existing infrastructure we have to work around. Bethlehem's an old city with a lot of built environment here that we need to work through, and we have to have a realistic understanding of how we handle those things. Obviously, we have railroads on both sides of the river, existing bridges, a lot of important buildings, and we just have road infrastructure and a lot of other utility infrastructure that we have to factor into the process. So we're cataloging all that, gaining an understanding of what those constraints are, and factoring those into our location studies. But at the same time, we have to be conscious of environmental considerations. So right now we're doing research into things like wetlands, things like floodplains, all the creeks, Monocacy Creek, the canal, the Lehigh River itself, and as I mentioned, the floodplain areas. So we need to be conscious of all those environmental constraints as well, and work that into our concepts so we're minimizing any impacts as much as possible as we can on those environmental considerations. Next. But as we all know, we have some real world topography challenges. We have a hill that's on the north side. We have a lot of steep slopes along the river. So we have some real world constraints when it comes to slopes. And that sort of makes us have a challenge when it comes to accessibility and ADA, as Wu touched on. We want this bridge to be as accessible as possible to everyone, of all abilities. So we need to make sure that we understand the elevation changes that are going on from one side of the river to the other, understanding how that, the railroads and the road network would impact the bridge. So we'll be studying those things in more detail as we locate the different bridge options. So one of the things we also wanted to do was help establish a vision for what this bridge really could be. So I think I'm going to let Stacy talk about this one.
So this is one of those rare opportunities in the point of a process where we have a chance to dream a little bit on the big side until all of the limitations and parameters get in our way. And so our question at this point in the process is can a bridge, is a bridge merely a way to get from point A to B, or can it be something special? Can it go beyond simply being, a functional piece of infrastructure that takes us from one side of the river to the other? So at this point, we would like you to keep that in the back of your mind and keep an open mind as we consider the possibilities.
And just expanding what Stacy had to say. So what we did is we started doing some research on other similar bridge projects from across the country to really give everyone an idea of what this bridge really could be and what are the amazing asset and destination and place that we could create right here in Bethlehem. So we came up with some really good examples, and we were fortunate with Michael Baker to be involved with a really great example that just got opened up in the last year or so, called the Dublin Link in Dublin, Ohio. An amazing bridge you can see here, a cable stay structure over a river, over 700 feet long, 14 feet wide. And it actually has a lot of attributes that are very similar to Bethlehem. We had a river that divided two urban areas that were separated by some topography in the river, but had an amazing impact on that town. It's led to development of open space and parks and trails, significant economic development. Over $120 million of public and private investment has been established around this bridge structure. They've actually established a zoning district called the Bridge District, that's based around this structure. So as you can see, this is a great example of what really could happen in Bethlehem. And they've even established markets that would be based around the bridge structure. Next example. Here's another great example from Greenville, South Carolina, called the Liberty Bridge. This one had a slightly different approach, where they were trying to make some parklands, this beautiful waterfall, and a river element more accessible to the city. So they built this amazing sort of asymmetrical cable stay bridge, about 350 feet long, that really gives people amazing views of this waterfall and natural areas along the creek in Greenville. And it's really spurred a lot of green space development and parks and recreation development in Greenville. They even have some festivals in this area, a Shakespeare Festival, and they have some recreational runs that are based around this bridge. So another great example that we can look to as an example of what could be here in Bethlehem. And here's another great example from Providence, Rhode Island, called the Providence Pedestrian Bridge, about 400 feet long. This one's kind of unique because it was a location of an old roadway bridge that was eliminated at one point, but they actually repurposed the bridge abutments to create this really unique and creative bridge structure that connected from one side of the river to the other. Similar to Bethlehem, there were some universities that had campuses on both sides of the river that used this bridge to connect those campuses. But as you can see, they've used a lot of interesting lighting and interesting materials and differences in elevation to create unique spaces on the bridge. So as you can see, it's not just a way to get from one side to the other. They use this place in the lower left here. They set up bands. You could sit on this little amphitheater type setting here of all days, all times of days and nights, and see entertainment. So again, when we start thinking about what could be here in Bethlehem, we're thinking about things like this. How can this space be used for other things besides just transportation? How could it become a real place that could be incorporated to things like music fest and other events in the city?
Great, thank you, Chris. And good evening, everyone. My name is Keiko Kramer. I'm from WRT and landscape architect, and very exciting to have all of you still stay with us. And we're going to have a couple more questions asking about, this time is about your bridge, your crossing. And you have seen Chris describe three kind of example, and you can see many other examples in the world and in the nation. And interesting thing is, bridge is purpose is connecting people to people and place to place, but it's also they're kind of transforming to different function, different purpose. And we kind of coming up couple example, which is just we start having fun, and we want to have fun with you all, and maybe not including what you are thinking. If that's the case, please bring up into the chat and bring up to our conversation. But we're going to go through a couple of them example, and then we're going to ask a question after that. And again, if you stay with the mentee, please give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, like, question. Please push that using that and to communicate with us, which is much more create this communication is interactive. So example one is a floating park. And if you have seen in, for example, Hoover Mason Trestle or Highline or some other place, the park is not just, doesn't have to be on the ground. It can be on a structure, it can be on a platform. And this is a great example. The bridge can be having a park. It's become a park. It's not just a crossing, and people can gather and greenery and sort of people come over to there for the lunch, and I think a different purpose can be happen, but become a sort of floating park. I have seen thumbs up. Or a point of convergence. It's really simply to the movement, people connecting and then moving to from A to B. Is that you're crossing to B? Is that enough, or that's the primary purpose of this crossing, this bridge to be? Next. Or as we have all having the Bethlehem, there are many festivals going on, Christmas and Music Fest, Oktoberfest, and this place could be happen something. It's much more music or art show or different things to just the point of gathering. People can come over from north side and south side to meet at the bridge, and that can be happen to on the crossing as well. I have seen the 10 thumbs up. And next one could be DD Vital Link and Trail Network. I believe all of you already have been using the trail network around the city of Bethlehem. And this bridge can be really create safe and expanding to the trail network from north side and south side. Right now it has a connection, but this could be the very primary point of connecting and expanding your recreation opportunity, much larger scale. Next. And alternative way to the commute. I heard some folks is having difficulty, even just from north to south, south to north. Biking, walking, not so much safety, I just want to drive. But this could be really opportunity to much more walkable, much more bikeable, connecting the pedestrian and biker-oriented connection from north to south. And you can just go down there for the restaurant from north to south, very easy, or south to north. And I think that's going to be create, really alternate the different way to commute to the both side. Next. And simply, you see in a case study, it could be very iconic, distinctly Bethlehem Bridge. People are going to come over to see this bridge, just visually present and iconic, and want to take a picture in the Instagram, and people are going to talk about this bridge. And I think one of the destination people come to and looking forward to, and that could be happen through this crossing as well. And I think I went through all 6 of them. Now we are questioning what could our crossing be? And right now it's just showing the 6 examples. And if you can provide us your favorite and order the priority, which one is your favorite? 1st through 6, we're gonna be, assuming this is boarding your favorite, I guess. Stacy, I'm a little bit not clear. I think first, if I'm looking at the Minty, I'll see it. Yes.
Yes, this gives everybody an opportunity to rank them. So this is a great chance where you can tell us what do you think is most important to you, or that the crossing could be, and then all the way down. So you get to rank all of your choices. Yeah.
Let's keep changing.
Yeah.
How long do we should wait?
Well, let's see.
It will take a while, I guess. And again, we are showing this 6 example we coming up, but this is not it. We are looking for from your voice and your idea to what are you thinking? What are you thinking about crossing to be? And that is we really looking forward to hearing from all of you. And hopefully this 6 example is going to inspire you to coming up something unique.
Yeah, look at this. So I say we're getting there. We usually have about 33 participants actively putting in their choices. So let's see if we're going to edge it out. Very interesting. It's changing rapidly.
Especially like a 4th, 5th, 6th is kind of keep flipping around.
Right.
Wow. It's kind of competing each other.
Very interesting. I think we all would have come into this too, thinking perhaps the focus should be on something that's distinctly Bethlehem in the way that steel stacks is so unique and continues to evolve.
Also can tell, however, the Vital Link and Trail Network, as well as alternative way to commute. Really people looking for the strong connection in north side and south side, and very safe and comfortable and walkable. I think that's representing to the first one and third one as well. And the 4th one. I think we set 36
So I'm
people
seeing a hand raised, and for everyone on the line, I want you to know that at the end of this presentation will be an opportunity to type your questions so that we can answer them in real time. We won't be taking questions at this time. but please feel free to chat and provide
Thanks,
your questions
Wu.
that way.
Yeah, I was looking at the hands up, so thank you. That's a good point. So next question, what amenities should the bridge connect to? And I assume you are seeing a picture there? Is that how it works?
This is an open-ended question, and so at this point, many of you, we feel, we know you live in the city and you work in the city and you like to play in the city. So, so please give this some thought. We've highlighted in some of our analysis some of the really special cultural and historic elements of the city. But if there's something here that comes to mind that you think would be really important to emphasize that connectivity, please make sure that you enter it here.
It could be a restaurant too. It could be anything.
Exactly. A favorite picnic area, a favorite point where you like to look and see the water. Perhaps the library. Ah, somebody beat me to it.
Yeah.
And we should say, we are noticing that one of the questions that is coming up again and again in the chat has to do with whether or not we're considering any of the existing bridges and whether or not there would be a separation in the trail from vehicular traffic. And that is very much a goal, I think, at this point. And Chris, you can speak to this later on, that all of the options at the moment are still on the table, but we are very much striving to look at a route that would keep those conflicts, to a minimum, and keep bikers and pedestrians safe and separated from traffic.
A lot of folks saying downtowns and trails. I like the one person mentioned about to eventually develop the river walk along the north side of the Lehigh River, which is a beautiful walk, and I'm sure it's going to be the great recreation link as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this one getting a lot. I'm excited to see so many different answers here. Super cool. The Boyd Theater, it's a beautiful building.
Theater, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
A mini Golden Gate. There we go. Lots of praise for the Bethlehem Food Co-op, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Direct connection between the two downtowns.
River level landing, it's more close to the water.
Possible seating for folks to enjoy dinner. I like that idea. How exciting to see so much feedback. This is terrific. So connecting the DNL and the Greenway. Plenty of room for everyone to travel. All right. It looks like some of you are skipping ahead to the next questions already, where we,
oh my gosh.
We talk about the types of activities and the types of amenities that you would like to see.
Should we move on to the next question? And again, continue to put in the chat if you have any kind of idea, continue to express voice through the chat, and we capturing everything on the chat as well. So just, we don't want to miss any sort of voice here. Oh, wow, yeah, people are ahead. Interesting.
Okay, so looks like many of you have skipped to this next question, which has to do with the outcomes. And so in this case, we would love to rank each one of these so that you can, again, you have the opportunity to review each one and say how important this is to you. So you don't have to necessarily be exclusive, but you can evaluate them individually. So in other words, how important is reducing carbon emissions to you through such a crossing? Or how important is it to you to be able to walk or bike to work? So this takes a little bit of extra time to evaluate each answer. But this will also help us to understand what's most important to you. Very interesting. This is fascinating to see because I feel like based on some of the earlier input that you all were providing us, it looked like you're thinking of the bridge as a vital link within the overall trail system. And this, I think, is also very interesting to show how important it is for you to create a community gathering space where the community comes together and hopefully
communicate together,
mm-hmm.
stitching.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And yet at the same time, many other things are very close here. I see adding a boost to the economy is very important, as well as creating a unique destination and having access to nature, being able to walk and bike. Excellent.
Excellent.
Okay, shall we move on to the next?
Sure. Next. So this one, we are asking what events, programs would like to see over the crossing, over the bridge, and showing to the picture, you can pick 3 options from those pictures, and we can see sort of what is popular boat is going to be each of them.
And I would add, I would add that what we're looking here are things such as, are you interested in daily programs such as outdoor classroom activities or outdoor fitness? Are you interested in something that's more of like a weekly program that might happen, such as a pop-up farmers market or pop-up food-related event? Or are you excited about things that might happen a little bit more infrequently, like a monthly event, but obviously a bigger event, such as an art festival or an outdoor performance or music or theater, or perhaps something that happens, with the season that perhaps ties into the Christmas market or music fest or. Very interesting. It's looking like
the weekly program market is going top runner right now.
Great interest in some weekly programs.
Performance.
There is one question on here that I see in the chat asking us about how the 6 options for the crossing were determined. And none of those by any means are exclusive. So please, all of those are just different ideas that are based on some of our preliminary input and preliminary conversations that we've gathered from some of the stakeholders who are involved with the original grassroots effort. But they are by no means the only options that we have to consider for the bridge, and also not either or scenarios. Okay, looks like there's great interest here in a pop-up market of some sort, as well as performance space outside.
Outdoor performance and theater. Great. Shall we move on to next?
Sure.
And again, this one is also you're choosing 3 options, I believe, and what activity would you like to do. And there are many different aspects we can do over the crossing, and just like biking safety and walking, running, and it's already one person is put it in. Skateboarding, scooter, that's also the kind of mobile aspect, and socializing, and meeting people, gathering, and having direct access to the river, more close to the water, touching the water, and looking at the water, playing, and getting wet, and fitness and sports. And again, those are also, we are hearing from some previous engagement or seeing some trend. And if there are anything else actually you're looking for after voting these options, please put into the chat as well, so we can pick up in something different. If we are missing something, we would like to hear from all of you.
Wow, look at this.
Walking, running. Right? No praying. I'm shocked. No praying. No praying on the bridge.
Very interesting. Great interest in walking and running and biking safely and also socializing. So
again, community come together and meet over the bridge. That would be fantastic to see.
Okay.
We have one more.
I would simply
Oh,
add just
okay.
I would simply add just one comment that did seem to come through, and many of those that we're definitely will take note of, is the fact that several folks are saying that they would rather not have of any activities per se, just that it should be more of a peaceful, natural respite from the hustle and bustle of the downtowns on either side. So please rest assured that we are tracking all of these comments, and we will be reviewing all of these comments too. And now, if there are additional comments, we would invite you at this point to enter them either in the chat or through Menti.
And this time we are open up to the question, correct? Ask us anything. So please writing in the Menti the questions. Is that what we're asking, right?
Yes, both Menti. Okay, so we're seeing a couple questions here, and a few that had been entered earlier on. So why don't we start with some of those? So one of the first questions that was asked actually had to do with the slideshow and all of the responses that we received this evening. So whether or not those would be available. And yes, please note that we will be posting all of these materials on the website so that they can be shared and reviewed, including the recording, so that you should have access to that. One of the other questions that was asked early on has to do with whether or not that we will be considering, that our analysis will consider whether or not to look at any of the existing bridge structures. And so, Chris, I'd love you just, if you could, to speak to that.
Thanks, Stacey. That's a good question. Yeah, absolutely. We can consider that if that's something the community is interested in. We're kind of hearing well, just from our experience in the study area and anecdotally and from the feedback that we've heard so far from steering committee folks is the existing bridges are really not super friendly for pedestrians. They have narrow walkways or not a dedicated safe space for bicycling. They don't really have connections to the river, things like that. But yeah, we definitely could look into, you know, the existing bridges as an alternative, or if there's strong feeling on that, to look at modifying the bridges. I see some questions about the Hilda project. As many of you know, PennDOT is doing a rehabilitation of the Hilda Bridge, the bridge that's on the west side of our study area. And they're looking at a variety of pedestrian bicycle accommodations potentially as part of their analysis. So it doesn't have to be a one or the other solution. I mean, you know, PennDOT could be improving the Hilda Bridge, which may serve some folks better. Maybe the faster through, you know, bicyclists would like to use a dedicated space on the Hilda Bridge versus something that maybe has more of a combined space or has other options, you know, for a new structure. So obviously rest assured, we'll be reaching out to PennDOT to make them aware of our project, and I'll be trying to coordinate because we may be trying to use some of the same space, or we need to coordinate, you know, our different alternatives with each other. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thanks, Chris. Another question that came up early on was, how much will a bridge such as this cost, and who would pay for it? And again, I'm wondering if either Chris or Darlene, if either one of you would like to reply to that.
On that a little bit. I'm the planning director with the city of Bethlehem. It'll be a public bridge. It's open access to the public. So we would look for some public funding options. There are certainly grants that we would reach out for, some sponsorship opportunities. I think there's probably a broad range of options that we can look at. We really at this point are considering costs as one of the items that we're looking at. Design and location and engineering and all those other things go along with that, but the cost will, you know, it's still unknown at this point, and it is contingent upon many of those other factors. But there are options that we can look at for funding. It'll be an open public bridge. I saw there were some comments also about lighting and safety, and yes, because it is an open public bridge, we will have safety as one of the factors that we look at as the study proceeds.
Darlene,
just add to that, Stacy. I mean, just for you know, a point of data. I mean, City of Philadelphia built the Schuylkill Banks Boardwalk. If you guys are familiar with that, that was in the neighborhood of $17 million for their first phase, and they're exploring another phase, which is $20 to $30 million. So there are funding sources out there. You know, if this is a priority for the city and for the region, I mean, we could use, you know, lots of different transportation funding sources and grant programs to fund it. Obviously, it's going to be a combination of funding sources, but you know, it definitely can be done. And then it just depends on how much, you know, the project really is going to cost. So there's lots of different funding out there, especially if we play up the trails element. There's lots of different programs that help develop trails.
so as a follow-up to that, there obviously, understandably, are some concerns about the impact on taxpayers. Can either of you address that as well, or speak to that, please?
Well, one of the reasons that the return on investment component is a part of this study is that we do believe that this is an economic development project, as well as a trail project and an alternative transportation project. And so that opens this project up to other opportunities for funding as well. We could also look for sponsorships from private funders, but probably most of the funding would come from public opportunities for grant awards.
Thank you. Let's see. Actually, Hannah, if you don't mind going back to the beginning of the questions that have been posed on Menti, that would be helpful. Again, this question here has to do with whether or not these questions will be posted somewhere so that folks could see them. And again, yes, we for any of the questions that we don't get to this evening, we'll make sure we reply, and then all of the questions and answers will be part of the materials that we post to our website. And just for those, again, our website is bridgebethlehem.com. Okay, it looks like this next comment is more of a comment as opposed to a question. Speaking about activities on a limited basis could be a draw. So I'm sorry, the questions are popping through here. So Darlene, what city department would be in charge of maintenance? Would it be multiple departments, do you think? And again, this sort of gets back to budget and at this point, you know, how could this affect the yearly budget?
And, you know, the cost of the construction of the project is one factor, but we'll also look at operational costs and ongoing maintenance costs as a part of the study as well. Usually any public space is managed through the Public Works Department, also the Recreation Bureau. You know, they typically manage all of our public space, our streets and stormwater and public utilities and things like that. So they would be, they are a part of the design and the support for the project, because they will be very much involved in ongoing maintenance of the project in the future.
Excellent. Any parking addition to be made for direct access to the bridge?
I think that's a good point, actually. If we want it to be accessible to all of our residents, that may be important. And sometimes for our trails, we just have small parking opportunities as trailheads. There may be just something simple like a trailhead that's accessible. It's something we can certainly look at.
Another question that was just posted in the chat sort of gets back to what the where the original genesis of this idea for a bridge was, and if you could just, Darlene, perhaps quickly recap for folks how the idea first came about.
I think that a non-vehicular crossing over the bridge has been talked about for really a very long time, because we are so unique with two very vital and active downtowns on either side of the bridge. I think it has been more and more on the front burner of the discussions as we developed the Greenway, and there was then a more significant trail on the north side and on the south side of the bridge. And then I think our trail feasibility study really brought the discussion to the forefront. It was listed in the study as a long-term goal, but there's so much excitement about it. And there's been so much really grassroots interest in this project. I know when the initial community groups started to put meetings together, sometimes they would have, I think there were a couple of meetings where they had about 100 people come out with interest to discuss the opportunities for this bridge. And then as that continued to percolate, Northampton County became interested in partnering with some funding, and DCNR also was willing to support the project with some funding for a feasibility study. So when we had the funding from those two sources and some funding also from the city, it seemed like we really should be moving ahead with this to take a closer look at what kind of opportunities we might have here.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm seeing two questions here. The first is whether or not something such as landscaping could be part of the bridge. You know, whether or not that could be an option. And Keiko, could you speak to that for us?
Sure, the answer is very clear, simple, absolutely. And you have seen in a steel stacks or any of the other structure, we can be able to have some greenery and trees, even trees, which is option. And yes, we can do that as well.
And sort of a follow-up to that that was posed in the chat a little bit earlier, there was a question by Anthony Viscardi who questioned, what about using the north side banks to provide also some access to the river? And I think there was also a comment made earlier in the presentation by a participant too, also saying, you know, would there be some way to provide greater access to the river itself? So I don't know, Keiko or Chris or Wu, any thoughts on that?
I think that's absolutely one of the options. Sort of priority comes into some more, you know, touching the water or do some water edge close to the water. We can prepare, and I think that was one of the tool or sort of the tools to where the bridge is going to be. And maybe Chris can speak the possibility, but everything is possible in some extent. I think it depends on the priorities.
Yeah, I agree with Keiko. I mean, it's a great idea. You know, connectivity along the river, you know, maybe we can start thinking things like parallel to the river versus, you know, always thinking perpendicular to the river. I think it's definitely something we consider on both sides of the river if it's possible.
Thank you. And sort of as a follow-up to that, the question on the screen that we're all looking at right now, how many possible points, I think this is a really good one for us to think about, are being considered as possible entrances to the crossing? And how can we assure that the crossing is very easy and accessible so that you know, all the full gamut of participants, such as children, as well as the elderly and the handicapped, can navigate to use the bridge? And Chris, I'm wondering if you could first speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, we would love to hear you know, where people think they would need access to the trail. I mean, you know, obviously access points to the DNL would be great, to the Bethlehem, South Bethlehem Greenway somehow, and then just to the Main Street areas would be great. You could think of lots of different access points, and I think we want to make those a lot of different places where people can get to the structure. And as we mentioned, you know, we're planning to make this ADA accessible, which means that the slopes will be very gradual. You know, we might have some switchback ramp type configurations to get people up top to the bridge, or very gradual ramps to maybe get you from, say, the south side elevation of the street up to a new structure, because we'll likely have to elevate to get over the railroads and get over some of the roads that are in the project area. So again, we're being very conscious of those aspects and making it as accessible as possible to everyone.
Thank you, Chris. I just want to make sure I see, this is a really great comment here, I think, that we see on the screen, that, you know, both sides of the river have such a distinct character with both steel and Moravian history, that the bridge needs to respect both sides in its design, and perhaps even include a timeline of Bethlehem history along the way. It's a really interesting point and a great idea. Okay, will we be able to assign an economic factor to our current bridges so that we may weight the true cost of this bridge? Wu, I'm wondering if you could provide a few details about the work that our subconsultant eConsult will be helping us with toward the end of the study.
Sure. Their study is really going to take a look at the proposed pedestrian bridge, but I think this question is asking about the economic factor of the current vehicular bridges. I need to come back to you on this question. My guess is that there will be a calculation or something into the model as it relates to the economic factor of the current bridges, as we know that those vehicular trips are creating just a lot of economic development and generating a lot of jobs. So I can't really answer this definitively, but I'm sure it will be factored.
Thank you. Good question. Will the bridge bring more people to Hotel Bethlehem?
I would say yes, Stacy. I mean, I'm just thinking of the D&L trail. It's a 160-mile trail. You know, people do multi-day rides now, and with the D&L being built out and connecting to more places, I totally could see people, you know, using the Hotel Bethlehem as a stayover spot along their trail ride. Or again, people go to San Francisco to see the Golden Gate Bridge. You know, that's, you know, we could create a bridge to that, you know, with that kind of attraction to it. People come to Music Fest. I'm sure there's people that stay overnight multiple days for Music Fest and all the other festivals that happen here. Imagine we had another amazing place that we could just expand Music Fest into, or the Chris Kindle Mart or something. You know, other festivals that could happen and sort of just literally bridge the two Bethlehems, bridge both sides of the river. You're gonna attract a lot of folks with something like that.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that we also touched on a question or a thread that's come up a couple times, which has to do with whether or not there would be separate lanes for bikers and walkers to, you know, obviously avoid conflicts and collisions. Again, Chris, I'm going to lob that over to you.
Yeah, we can totally arrange the bridge in a way that we could segregate the different uses. A lot of bridges like this sort of created lanes, you know, with color on the pavement or icons on the pavement that would say, okay, this is where the bikes should be, this is where the pedestrians should be. And then some bridges in the past have sort of used the landscaping to separate some of these uses, or create sort of pull-offs on the side where pedestrians could gather and stop and take pictures or whatever, and use other parts of the bridge for the folks that want to run through or bike through. So yeah, we can use the creativity of the layout of the bridge to try to safely organize those uses.
Thank you. Turning now to a comment that was posted in the chat, which is requesting that, you know, when we consider the economic impact, we need to be sure that we consider the cost of air pollution and adverse health impacts and greenhouse gas emissions. You know, I think that we acknowledge the fact that we're aware of the city's climate action plan, and this is certainly you know, an opportunity to help support that. So our analysis will definitely be weighing all of those impacts and take that into account. I don't know, Darlene, if you wanted to add anything further to that, or?
No, I think it's timely that the city just finished a climate action plan, and this is a follow-up big project for the city of Bethlehem that I think fully supports many of the recommendations that are in the plan itself. So I think it's a great comment, Peter. Thank you.
And then there's another question on the screen, Darlene, that I was hoping that you might be able to speak to if you're familiar with Jeff Speck's study, and that he too had, I guess, mentioned a pedestrian bridge.
Mhm. We did complete a walkability study for both the north side and the south side downtowns. We were able to make quite a few of the recommendations that came out of that plan, and I think the New Street Bridge, the Fahey Bridge, is a good example of that. The pedestrian connections have been improved north and south side of that bridge, and there've been quite a few in the downtown areas themselves. So yes, that is a study that we can include in our efforts here. There were certainly a lot of good recommendations in that study.
Sorry about that. A very interesting question that was just posted, which is, what kind of job creation I would say could come out of a project such as the pedestrian bridge. Let's see, Darlene, do you want to take a first pass at that and invite all of our fellow planners to weigh in on that as well?
Yeah, I think we talk about economic benefit of a project like this, because it really goes, it's a project like this, I think, speaks to quality of life in the community in general. And the more attractive that we can make the city of Bethlehem, we continue to be a place that people want to live, people want to open up small business. I think we're the kind of community where people can, we say this a lot, live, work, and play, but we really can live and work in the same community. We can walk about, we can bike about pretty safely, and we need to improve on that. And I think we're a place that small business really wants to locate. So I look at this as quality of life in the big picture, and that allows us the opportunity to continue to create jobs and attract small business. I don't know if there's other comments, other people want to comment on something like that, but.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the possibilities are really limitless. The wider and bigger our imagination, I think we can think of all sorts of job creations, jobs that we don't even know exist today, could potentially be created. So all sorts of micro mobility, things that could be rented out that you could use to navigate the trail and the bridge. I know we're thinking of scooters now, but who knows? 5 years from now, it could be something else. So,
thank you. Our next question that we can see on the screen asks, are we considering an access point, such as a platform or a deck at water level, to allow for fishing? Keiko, would you like to take that one? I see you smiling.
I can take a fun stuff. Absolutely. Again, I think it's about what you are looking for. And this kind of question is great because we know what you're looking for to do around this crossing and bridge and water edge. And if that's a priority for many of the folks, definitely we can create the spot or space to create. You can do that to connecting the crossing kind of access point.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We see that there are many comments about Menti in both the chat and also throughout the presentation. So asking whether or not we can have a meeting where people get to discuss the questions before the polling. And, obviously, I think that we would all agree that doing virtual meetings definitely have their challenges, and they have their advantages and disadvantages. And I think that we all recognize the fact that one of the disadvantages is not being able to have that, that kind of exchange. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure that by doing this, we we could be as respectful of your time as possible, and that we could be respectful of everybody's opinions. And so we hope that in the future we have, I think as Wu pointed out to you, we have at least two more community events where we will be together and where we will be inviting your feedback. And I apologize. We're looking for feedback from all voices, including dogs, as you can tell. But we definitely hope that we'll be able to meet in person. We definitely will be looking to gather input and feedback. This is just the very beginning. And we'll be telling you in a few minutes about one of our next opportunities, which is a scavenger hunt, which is all very open-ended. And again, I don't want anyone to feel that any of the questions that were posed this evening or the options are locking any of us into certain things. This at the moment is just an early visioning session where we're testing the waters and starting to understand what seems to be important to you. And as we go on, we'll continue to refine those as we develop our concepts, and you'll continue, we'll be continuing to take your pulse and make sure that the concept that is evolving is very much reflective of your opinions. Oh, my goodness, seems like there are a bunch of new questions. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to find a way to actually answer these questions and then post them on the website. I think that's probably the best way, since we're nearing the end of our time here, and we do want to talk about the scavenger hunt and provide some instructions on that and close this meeting out.
Alrighty. All right, so with that, yes, I think we'll definitely make sure that we make a point of responding to all of these questions in a clear way and posting those in addition to the comments, and posting those with all of the meeting materials to our website. And Hannah, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind right now advancing to our next slide. Fantastic. So as we mentioned to you, our work is really just begun. We are just starting to delve into all of the great work that's been done previously by all the folks who have been involved and who have really shepherded the project to this point. We invite you to check in regularly on our website, which again is bridgebethlehem.com. And our next event that we hope all of you will take part in, we hope that you'll get family and friends to participate, is a scavenger hunt. So our scavenger hunt is virtual. It has actually officially launched as of today. And so it entails 7 different locations that we invite you to visit. And you can either visit these in person, you can visit one or more in person, or for those who may not have that time or the ability right now to do so, you may also explore those sites all online. We are doing a raffle, and so in order to be entered, you have to visit at least one of these sites and share your feedback with us online. So when you go onto our website, you will see it's all self-guided throughout, and so there will you'll be able to upload photos, you'll be able to you'll see prompts with questions, and so you'll be able again to sort of share any sorts of feedback that you would like to give to us. And then we want you also to stay tuned for some more community events. We'll be doing another, as we say, hopefully in-person event in September, and then another one in January of next year. And certainly between now and then, we welcome any comments that you may have. All of the contact information is available online on the website. We're excited to see, I think, all of the enthusiasm and great turnout. So with that, Darlene, I invite you or any of our other team members to make any closing comments.
Yeah, no, I think first of all, I'd like to just thank everyone for coming. And as Stacy noted, as we have other events, we will be able to open up to the public and have more face-to-face interaction, and that's important. And I know that's what we really want to get back to, but we really felt like at the start of this project, we're just not there yet. The scavenger hunt we thought would be a fun idea to get people to get out and actually see the different areas of the city along the river, and really give some more thought to some of these ideas. Wu made a great suggestion too, that with the questions that we have here that we were unable to answer during the discussion, we will post some response to that. We do want to be responsive to your comments, and I think the quality of the comments was really quite high. People are really thinking about this, you can tell, and we appreciate that. I think this is an exciting project, and I think it's going to be a fun project as we move forward to look at some of the alternatives here. So stay tuned, and we will continue to reach out, and we look forward to your responses to the scavenger hunt. And don't forget the website. We will post some additional information there related to the questions. So thank you again. We appreciate your input, and have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Spread the word. Tell the friends.
There you go.
Have a good
Thanks,
evening.
everybody.